Georgia. Well, happy Monday. It's meteorologist Ansley Parker here. Now, I'm in for meteorologist Alex Pry this morning. He will be back tomorrow, but I'm just filling in for him this morning. So that means I'm with you to do an extended look at the forecast for the entire week ahead. Now, just to give you kind of something to hold on to for the week ahead, it is going to be a very, very nice stretch of weather. I think fall-like, not necessarily in terms of the temperatures, though the temperatures will be mild, but in the sense that for the first time since the summer season, we have a stretch of very, very almost truly dry weather. So that's kind of that fall-like thing when we get fronts that really dry our area out. I think that's what's ahead for us in the upcoming week. So I'll talk a little more details on the rain chances here in just a minute, but let's kick things off the way Alex always does, and we'll take a look at all of the sky cams across the area. So not the best sight this morning, actually. Despite the good forecast that we have ahead of us here, it's been a little bit of a gloomy morning. We can start to see some peaks of blue sky finally in downtown Macon, but if you flip your eyes down there to Perry, it's still kind of a blanket of cloud cover across the area. That's the same kind of situation over in Dublin. I know that Dublin and Warner Robins both, as I was doing the forecast this morning, they had peaks of being able to see the blue sky, but same kind of thing. It's still a blanketed cloud cover out there. I think from time to time you probably are able to get a little bit of sunshine, but these low level clouds still seem to be hanging with us through the morning time this morning. I still think as we head into the afternoon, a lot of these will begin to part. I don't think it's going to be a totally dreary day, but we may have a bit of cloud cover sticking with us in and out through the afternoon. So, excuse me, because of that, the numbers this morning have actually stayed almost consistent from the time we woke up to the time we're sitting at now. So by the time I got in this morning around 3 in the morning, this is what the map looked like almost exactly. In our northern counties, things are kind of hanging out in the upper 60s. That's actually fairly low for the time of morning that we're at. So a few upper 60s on here. Elsewhere, almost everybody else is sitting in the low 70s. So real low 70s up towards the north, slightly warmer closer to the mid 70s down towards the south. And there is actually a reason for that temperature spread, which I'll touch on here in just a minute. Now, something you may have been able to notice yesterday, which is carrying over into today, is a little bit of a breeze out there. So yesterday there was kind of this northeasterly breeze that was pretty gusty. I think from time to time we had wind gusts 20 to 25 miles an hour. That's sticking with us through the day today, and this is actually one of the driving forces in our forecast through the afternoon today and then kind of into the upcoming week as well. If you'll just kind of notice the way that these wind barbs are moving, they're coming in from the northeast. So why is that important? Well, when we start to get northeasterly flow like this, that is when we start to get a really, really good push of dry and cooler air. So what this wind is doing is reinforcing dry and cooler air into our area. So we're kind of transitioning over into a different setup for the day today. That is what's going to help with our forecast today. And then of course, it is a gusty wind. So we still have wind gusts out there. Right now, the sustained wind is anywhere from 5 to 15 miles per hour. And we have wind gusts that are occasionally higher than that. Right now on the map, the wind gusts are slightly above 15 miles an hour when they are recorded. I think we can get around 25 miles in some of the greater gusts, excuse me, this afternoon. So that's kind of where the winds stand. And again, that's how it's helping out with our forecast. And you can already see how it's doing that when we flip it over to the dew point map. If you take a look at the humidity across the area, you'll notice a little bit of a spread with this similar to the temperatures, and the two things are actually correlated. So up in our northern counties up here, you can see the dew point numbers themselves are actually in the mid to upper 50s. That is really, really comfortable. Dew points in the 50s are basically not noticeable. So there's some good dry air from counties all the way from Upson into Jasper and Putnam, even over here in Hancock, a 50-degree dew point on the map there. So some really dry air creeping towards this really dry category on the key here. And then as we kind of track our eyes a little further south, a slightly different story. Now I'll say it's not really terrible anywhere. We mainly have that not bad, that lighter green color on the dew point map here, but you can see down there towards Crisp County, there is a slightly darker shade of green on there. The dew points are in the low 70s. That's not terrible, but it's noticeable out there. So there is a spread happening in terms of humidity. That is because this flow is still kind of taking its time building in this drier air mass. That and another reason, which I'm going to explain here as we talk about the radar. So, excuse me, I'm just having trouble with my throat this morning. I apologize for how many times I've been clearing it. So this is the satellite and radar right now. It's mainly just some cloud cover that we've been dealing with on and off. If you're curious what this kind of green circle around the radar is there, that is just some scatter. It's actually not rain. So we've been dry today, but we have been dealing with this cloud cover pretty continuously. We did have some rain over the past couple of days. Yesterday we saw not yesterday, I guess, actually Saturday, we saw a couple of showers and storms mainly in our northern counties that brought a little bit of rain. But here in our area now, we're kicking off the work week pretty dry. So I mentioned there was kind of two reasons for the southern counties having a little more moisture. One, it was that flow is still kind of building into our area, so it's taking its time getting across all the regions. Two, right here, if you kind of take your eye and draw an imaginary line where the boundary of this rain is here, this is actually a stationary front. So what happened over the weekend was the rain that we saw was driven by a cold front. That cold front swept across the state and parked itself over here in Florida. So it's producing some showers and storms over there in Florida. As you know, with stationary boundaries, because we tend to deal with these a lot, this kind of slings some subsequent moisture up into our area where it's not totally oppressive, but it's still pushing a little bit of moisture into our southern county. So it's kind of a twofold reason for why they still have some moisture down there in the south. One is to do with the moisture from this stationary boundary, and two, all that flow coming in from the northeast is still building in and taking over our region. So because of that, things are just a teeny tiny bit muggier down there in Chris County. Again, I'll kind of show you, this is just to show you that this is where the stationary boundary is, and the SPC has kind of drawn where they think thunderstorms are possible along with that. I just kind of threw that in there to give you another visual to where the front is. But because of that, there is still a 10% chance of rain on the 7-day forecast today. Overall, it's going to be a great day. I think most places are going to stay dry. The further north you are, the better chances you have at staying dry. I think our very southernmost counties, I'm talking all the way from Montgomery probably into Crisp, these counties have a slight chance at catching just a really, really brief isolated shower. I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't see anything at all, but I've thrown the 10% on there just to cover the bases for one of these teeny tiny little showers from that stationary front still having some moisture in our area. That's about it though in terms of rain for the day today. Again, I really think a lot of places will stay dry. It won't be a great rain chance. I just thrown it on there to cover the bases for any lingering moisture as this air mass still tries to take over our area. So that is Monday. As we head into Tuesday, we're going to dry out even more. So Tuesday, we'll start off with hopefully less cloud cover as this flow builds in. That front moves a little bit further away from us, and then heading into the afternoon, I do still have the 10% chance of rain on there for Tuesday, but I think I may end up dropping it by the time we hit this evening. The last couple of model runs, I really haven't seen much. I had it on there because a few model runs tried to keep that teeny tiny little isolated shower chance around. Now that I'm seeing this, I think I may end up dropping it for Tuesday. So in theory, we should be drying all the way out for Tuesday as well. And then that is the pattern heading into the work week. Wednesday, we're going to stay completely dry also for Wednesday. Heading into Thursday, it looks like we will be completely dry for Thursday as well. So Monday is really the only day that there's still a slight rain chance on there. Again, about a 10% sprinkle chance for our southernmost counties. The trend throughout the week is really just going to be how are the numbers going to move, because we basically have no rain chances, not only in the short term, but I'm just going to play the long range models out for you. I didn't even throw in any pause points here because all the way through, check this out, all the way through next Monday, so a week from today, there's not a single rainmaker that starts to push through our area. We have no major weather maker on the way. We still have dry air. We don't have a lot of moisture. And even on the long range models, which as you know, we show these sometimes and it just kind of looks like paint splatter. It's not necessarily super defined. There's not even any of the paint splatter on the board. So pretty confident that we're really not looking at rain chances over the next 7 days, which is why I say it's kind of that fall-like air that we're going to have out here for around the next week or so. So really not talking about a lot in the rain department. If you got outdoor plans this week, let me tell you, this is the best week to take advantage of them. Heading into the weekend still looks good. So hopefully as we creep closer to that, things still look to pan out, because right now this is the week that I would do everything outside that I possibly could. Now, when we don't have rain chances for a while, I know sometimes it brings up the question, does that matter? You know, are we going to start to enter drought categories if it's been several days without rain? And the short answer really is no. If we kind of take a look again, I showed this a few minutes ago, but we did have some rain over the weekend. A couple of those isolated showers and storms that came into our area ahead of the cold front, that's the driver of all this weather, did leave a little bit of rain, not a ton. They were kind of quick movers and they didn't produce a ton of rainfall, but in the heavier spots here in Bibb County, over an inch and a half over there in Taylor County. So there was enough to get a little bit of rain totals, and then our southeastern counties really didn't see anything. Generally, that's just to kind of show you the rain that we've tacked on over the last week or so. Even with the little rain that we've had, we're still not creeping into drought categories as of this time last week. We'll get a new drought monitor coming in tomorrow. We'll see where we stand with that. But you know, sometimes we tend to see this abnormally dry category start to reach into our area. We're not even seeing that just yet. So right now, not having rainfall is not a huge thing, and we can hopefully just enjoy it as we go throughout the rest of the week with dry weather. We'll, again, keep our eyes on this, see how that really impacts things in terms of where we stand year to date in rainfall and things like that. But right now, it doesn't look to be the biggest deal. So with rain kind of out of the way, let's talk about the other things that will be impacting your forecast heading into the rest of the week. It's really going to be about how things feel and what the numbers are actually like. The good news is, I think we got good news in both of those departments. Let's start with how things feel, and I'm talking more specifically about the moisture in the air. So for today, again, this air mass coming in from the northeast is working on building its way in here. The more this low comes in from the northeast, the more we're going to reinforce dry air in our area, and it's just going to feel really, really pleasant. So we have a lot of that in our northern counties, and it will keep being that way through the next couple of days. The trend here generally will be very dry up towards the north, slightly less dry down towards the south. So a little more moist as you start to creep into our southernmost counties, but I still think everybody has the chance to at least experience the not bad category. I think we're going to stay far away from the muggy category. Overall, we shouldn't really be talking about heat index much over the next couple of days. So that will start to really start to feel that throughout the day today, and then that will take over heading into Tuesday. Maybe a good push of dry air where everybody could get in on the action. By the time we hit the midweek, we're going to have, again, continuous, I sound like a broken record, that's why I keep laughing, but we're going to have continuous reinforcement of this dry air, which is going to keep things feeling nice all the way through the upcoming week. So you see this doesn't really change. We don't see the dark green creep up here all the way through the work week, which is good news, and that will help these numbers feel even better. So something else that's important is throughout the day today, you are going to notice that it's going to feel a lot cooler than yesterday. Yesterday's high temperature was 88 degrees, so it wasn't terrible, but it was still pretty muggy, and it was in the upper 80s. That is right around average for this time of year. I would say this is right where we should be, and the overnight low was in the upper 60s. So this was just relatively warm, not super abnormal, not super crazy. It was probably okay if you were outside, but generally it was not that true fall-like feel. Heading into the rest of the day today, it's going to feel noticeably cooler. If we play the future view temperature map out this afternoon, we're going to top out in the low 80s. So that is going to feel really different, especially because we knocked out a lot of the moisture already. So it's going to feel drier, and the temperatures themselves are going to be a little bit cooler. So you'll notice that today, especially with some of the cloud cover out there, it'll probably feel pretty pleasant this afternoon. Heading into tomorrow morning, that's when you're probably really going to notice things, especially if you're somebody who's got an early commute or you've been out early, you run in the mornings, things like that. Stepping out your door in the morning, you will notice that it's going to feel a little bit cooler as well. Back to what we experienced last week with the really cool mornings, that's what we're going to be back to this week. So tomorrow morning, we're going to have low 60s on there. Again, we had upper 60s, low 70s this morning. So turn that down about 10 degrees and take out the moisture. That's how tomorrow morning is going to feel. I'd say that's pretty fall-like. As we head into Tuesday, we'll keep around the low 80s. So kind of similar to today is how you can think about Tuesday afternoon. Still pretty cool. And then we'll have an even cooler morning to kick off Wednesday morning. I mean, this is the first time I've seen this model run. They did it through a 54 on there, which is pretty crazy. Probably somewhere in the mid to upper 50s. Mid 50s would be really, really cool. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, probably the coolest that we've seen so far this year. So that would be a little bit shocking. Maybe we need to keep our eyes on Wednesday morning. Overall, what you need to know about it is that it's going to feel even cooler than Tuesday morning. So kind of continuing the cooling trend, at least in the mornings. But we're going to do the opposite as we head into the afternoon. So by the afternoon, in fact, I think this model's undershooting the numbers a touch. We'll probably be in the mid 80s for Wednesday afternoon. And that's going to feel a bit warmer after you've already had 2 days in the 80s. That is going to be the trend with the afternoon highs. We're going to be on a little bit of a warming trend here, but the morning lows, they really won't move much. We'll stay in the upper 50s and the low 60s through the next couple of days. I'll touch on that more on the 7-day. I'll kind of show you the step ladder as we get there, but let's touch a little bit more on the hurricane season before we kind of round this out with the 7-day forecast. So I've given myself away here already with what I was going to talk about, but as you can see, there is no activity expected in the tropics right now within the next 7 days. If you've been watching us for the past couple of days and you remember us talking about Invest 91L, not as complicated as it sounds if you're not familiar with the term Invest. It is just the name the National Hurricane Center gives an area of potential tropical development when they decide it's something that you can kind of think about, they want to investigate it further. It's basically when they think that a system will likely become a tropical system, either a tropical depression, a tropical storm, or a hurricane within the next 7 days. So we were watching Invest 91L. It's actually what you can see out here towards the Lesser Antilles, which I've totally covered up with this box. It's just an area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms in a low pressure system. Last week, it was showing really promising signs of potential tropical development. We're talking 90% over the next 7 days, and I think the highest we got over the next 2 days was 70%. Friday, we saw that rapidly decline. We went from high chances of development to low chances of development, and then as we climbed into the weekend, low got lower until Sunday. We eventually lost total chances of potential tropical development. Not a complaint whatsoever. We're definitely happy to see that happen, especially before this system got to the Lesser Antilles. So overall, there is no activity happening in the tropics. Anything we were watching last week has died down. The reason that I kind of bring this up to tell you that there's nothing out there, one, to let you know what's going on in the Atlantic Basin, and two, because today is September 8th. Wednesday will be September 10th, and that is the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. So that is when we would tend to see the highest activity going on out there, and you've seen yourself, we don't have anything going on out there. So kind of a lull in activity as we head into what is supposed to be the most active time in the season, which again, not a bad thing. To kind of show you where we stand in terms of how many storms we've had, you may remember we've had 6 so far. So the last name that we just took was Ferdinand. That ended up being a fish storm off the eastern coast of the U.S. and actually kind of keyholed between Bermuda as well. So no real land impacts from Ferdinand. The next name would be Gabrielle. We would be on the G name, just to kind of give you some perspective about where we were this time last year. Remember, Hurricane Helene happened at the end of September, and that was obviously the H name, the 8th name storm of the season. So not necessarily super different from where we were this time last year. I need to kind of check on this and figure out when we had our G name storm last year, but I guess I would not necessarily say it's super abnormal, but definitely when we would be expecting to see the most activity and we're seeing the least is at least a little bit interesting just to note as we head into the peak of the season. So that's where we stand as of right now, and we'll keep an eye on that as we head throughout the rest of the month. But there is nothing to kind of pay attention to, at least for the next 7 days, so everybody can kind of relax as we head into the peak of the season. So jumping back to Central Georgia, let's kind of wrap things up with the 7-day forecast here. Like I said, Monday and Tuesday are going to be the coolest days. I think I'm just going to go ahead and drop that 10% off for Tuesday with the latest model runs that I just seen here on the stream, but the 10% that you see for today is just to cover the bases for maybe a brief shower or storm that might try to pop up in our southernmost counties. They may not even see anything at all. This is just kind of a precautionary 10% there. Then as we head into Wednesday, we're going to start our climbing trend. It's really not going to climb super high. We're talking about mid to upper 80s to round out the work week, but we stay in the upper 80s. We don't find our way to 90 by the end of the week. In fact, you'll remember 89 is the average high for this time of year. So we stay actually where we should be for this time of year, climbing towards the end of the week and into the weekend. And we kind of hover there in the upper 80s. The overnight lows are probably going to drag more of your attention. The overnight lows are going to be in the upper 50s and the low 60s. So that's really cool. In fact, it's kind of one of those things when I was in college, my friends would always ask me what to wear every single day because I knew the weather really well. So this is one of those days where I would tell my friends, I would say throw on a sweatshirt when you're on your way to class in the morning, but have it be something that you can take off by the afternoon because it's going to be warm in the afternoon. So we're kind of in that weather. If you are a Georgia native, you know this all too well. I think that's kind of the advice I would give people in terms of how to dress over the next week or so. And then you don't need to throw your rain jacket or your umbrella in the car for the first time in a long time. I think we're going to have a very, very dry week ahead of us here. So hopefully the weekend keeps looking like this. You know how we kind of do disclaimers for the end of the 7-day forecast. A lot can change that far out, but right now there's not really any indication that this would be changing all too drastically. So hopefully next weekend is looking good and also staying just as temperate. So that is kind of where things stand right now. It's a pretty quiet, boring forecast. That's always kind of a good thing to see. That means we know we're entering into our fall season where we have these really nice fall fronts that can dry out our air and just give us some pleasant weather for the time being. So hopefully you're able to get outside this week and enjoy the temperatures, enjoy the clearer weather. And of course, meteorologist Alex Pry will be right back here tomorrow morning at 10:30. I'll see you at midday. Thank you so much for joining me.